The inverter is probably the most complex system on your coach, but if you take a few minutes to learn how it operates, you can enjoy your coach to its fullest. The inverter is used to invert 12-volt power to 120-volt power. This allows you to operate appliances when the coach is either unhooked from shore power and/or the generator is not operating, like when you're driving. Here are some examples of how the inverter is used. Let's say you're camped with shore power. The shore power will automatically charge your batteries and maintain them at full charge. Turn the inverter on. The inverter will go into the standby mode, which will automatically switch on the inverter in the event you lose shore power or generator power. When power is reconnected, the inverter goes back into standby mode. That way you never lose power. When you're dry camping, that is, camping without shore power, you should turn the inverter off to conserve energy. If, however, you want to watch that big game and have some popcorn in the microwave, then the inverter needs to be on. When using the inverter, if your refrigerator is set to AC, you'll need to switch the refrigerator to propane to keep it cold because the inverter does not supply power to the refrigerator. If your refrigerator was set to auto, then it will automatically switch to propane. If you're not going to be using your coach for more than 2 days, such as long-term storage, turn off the inverter and plug into shore power. Remember, a coach is not like a car. It has many functions that constantly drain battery power. If you leave your coach without power for more than 3 days, it may completely drain your batteries, even if nothing in the coach is being used. Here are some basic things you need to know about this unit. On the inverter panel, you'll find an on-off switch with corresponding status lights, a status screen, forward and backward menu buttons, and a setting button. The screen will always show the last setting change that was made. There are 3 menu modes to be viewed on the screen. Although they're not labeled as such, we refer to the 3 menu modes as the display mode, the programming mode, and the meter mode. The display mode has various menus for reading your battery state of charge and for changing some settings. The programming mode is for changing settings for your battery charging and generator usage functions. The meter mode includes displays that can be useful for evaluating the electrical system and is usually used only by trained technicians. To switch between display and programming menu modes, hold the arrow buttons down for 5 seconds. To view the meter mode, press only the up button for 5 seconds. To advance through the menus in any given mode, press the forward or backward buttons. When the inverter screen is in the display mode, you'll find several menu screens. One of the screen displays is System Status. This will show you when the inverter is either waiting for AC, that is, the inverter is off, or inverting, that is, when the inverter is on and the inverter is inverting power from 12 volts to 120 volts. You'll want the inverter on when dry camping or when traveling and need to use anything that requires 120 volt power. When you see bulk charging, absorb charging, or float charging, this means you're receiving shore power or the generator is running. The inverter may be placed in standby mode on this setting by pushing the on-off button. The green inverter light will indicate standby mode by slowly pulsating. When in this mode, if the power from either the shore or generator is discontinued, the inverter will automatically start inverting. It's a good idea to check the battery state of charge on a regular basis, especially when dry camping. This can be set to read as a percentage of state of charge or as a bar graph readout by pushing the Settings button. This reflects the percentage of charge left in the batteries. Time left to run. This tells you how many hours you can run your coach at the current battery draw. Time left to charge. This tells you how long it will take to charge your batteries to 100% state of charge from where they are right now. It's okay to use the batteries to watch movies or use the microwave, just normal evening activities, but be sure to recharge the batteries the next day with either the generator or shore power or the popular option solar panels, the quiet, renewable resource. The nice thing about solar panels is that by the time you even think about recharging the batteries, they're already doing it. Set shore power. This lets you set the amount of power you want to receive from the shore power outlet. For example, if your shore power has only 15 amps available, you may want to set the shore power settings to 10 amps. This will ensure that the shore power circuit breaker will not pop if you accidentally try to use more than 15 amps. You can change these settings by pushing the Settings button repeatedly until you scroll to the power setting you wish to use. Remember, the setting you leave on the screen will be the active setting until you change it. Gen Start Stop. This screen allows you to start and stop the generator from the inverter control panel. The on-off button you would normally use to turn the inverter on or off is now used as the on-off button for manually starting the generator. When you toggle to the program mode, you'll find the following menu screens. Search Sense. In this screen, you can set the setting to defeat, which will allow the inverter to go directly to the invert mode as soon as you turn your inverter on, or you can use one of the different wattage settings listed for the inverter to start inverting. For example, if you set to 30 watts in the screen, the inverter will not start inverting until it senses a 30-watt draw. This feature may be useful if you don't want the Instant On feature for your television to run your batteries down. Many of your entertainment system components remain partially on to retain memory settings or Instant On features. By using the Search Sense settings, you can set the inverter to not power these until you actually turn on a component. Again, scroll through the settings until you find the one you want to use. Auto LBCO. This is the low battery cutoff. The settings are either on or off. In the on position, the inverter stops inverting when the batteries reach 10.6 volt state of charge. In the off position, the inverter stops inverting at 9.5 volt state of charge. The factory recommends leaving this in the on position. Bat capacity. This can be set to auto, which allows the inverter to learn what the battery capacity is through many cycles of discharging and charging. Or you can set the capacity for what you know it to be. In your coach, 450 amp hours is the normal battery bank capacity. The closest setting in the screen is 500 amp hours, so that's the one you'll want to use. Battery type. This screen lets you set the inverter for the type of batteries you have in your coach. Charge rate. This screen lets you set the rate at which your inverter will charge. The factory setting is 80%. Set shore power. This is the same as the one in the display mode. RC7 setup. This allows you to set the screen to stay on the last keyed setting or to power saver, my personal favorite because this one turns blinking lights out so you can get some sleep. The blinking lights will go out after a short period of time and stay out until you toggle a button, or you can set it to rolling display. LCD contrast allows you to set the brightness of the display screen. Fuel gauge cutout. This is the setting that indicates the point at which the battery is empty. The factory recommends 11.4 volts. Generator start. This can be set for manual start or auto start. Before you can use this feature, you must set the clock first. It's the last item in the menu. You can set the auto start feature to come on at various states of charge or voltage settings. When using this feature, make sure to set the parameters far enough apart so the generator will not cycle on and off too often. For example, you may want your generator to come on at 50% state of charge and turn off at 95% state of charge. That type of setting won't make the generator short cycle. To set the generator start time, push and hold the forward and back arrows for 5 seconds. This will put you in programming mode. Scroll down to set the clock. The number that's flashing will be the one that will change when you push the settings button. After you set the first number, wait a few seconds for the number flashing to change to the other side, then set that number. The generator start, stop, and quiet time settings will work the same way. Just remember you have to set the clock first before you can set the generator run times. Generator stop. This allows you to program the generator to automatically shut off using the Auto Gen Start Stop feature. Again, scroll through the screens and find the setting that will work for you. Generally, you'll want it to shut off at 95% or at absorb or float charge. Begin Gen Quiet. This allows you to set certain times where you don't want the generator to start at all. For example, many campgrounds do not allow generators to operate after 9 p.m. or before 9 a.m. End Gen Quiet. This is where you set the time at which the generator can come back on. Select Gen Set. This has already been set for you at the factory. Set Clock. The clock has to be set before you can enable the Auto Gen Start feature. Meter Mode. Many of these features are more technical in nature and are here for evaluating the electrical system. Remember, to toggle to meter mode, push the up button for 5 seconds. Average shunt amps. This tells you how many amps are either going into the batteries or being drawn out from them. Battery. This tells you what state of charge your batteries are at currently. Invert charge. This tells you how many amps your inverter is using. Inverter output shows you how much AC or 120 voltage your inverter is producing. AC input. This tells you how much AC power you're receiving from either shore power or your generator. The battery temperature, transformer temperature, and FET temperature are technical screens for service technicians only. Estimated battery capacity. Take the number shown in the screen and multiply it by 8, and it will tell you how many amp hours your battery is capable of holding. This is useful when your batteries are getting older and you want to see how much life they have left in them.